Welcome, Ned Burwell. What a pleasure it is to have you here with me in Studio 369. And for the audience, I just want to do a little bit of an intro, and then you take it over from here. But so Ned is a non-denominational ordained minister. He spent 8 years with the ﷺ monks, became a monk for a year, is a self-employed tattoo artist. Back in 2007, had a mystical experience during a meditation retreat out in Mexico, which he's going to tell us about in just a moment. And you'll fill all of that in, please. And I just want to let the audience know how we met. So I was working at a wonderful store called Love and Peace for All, and there were two people that came in at separate instances who talked beautifully about this Ned Burwell. And so finally the time came where it was time to connect, and we just met, and it's here we are right here right now, and you are everything that that had been expressed by those two beautiful people. So Ned Burwell, please, would you just share with us, why don't we just begin at that mystical experience? Now, actually, we're gonna rewind back to Dr. Strange, as I'm calling him, the man whose door you knocked upon moments after you decided that you weren't going to drive your motorcycle into a brick wall. So why don't we actually just start there, and you can fill us all in.
This is it's always been a good segue with interviews talking about the catalyst for my awakening. And for me, it was going very deeply into darkness, into my own darkness, struggling in my mind, struggling with the outer world. And what was causing all that struggle was my lack of understanding of my inner world. And when at the time in my life, I was 19 years old when I met the doctor, and I think he saw in me a lot of potential through my experiences with tattooing, being a creative endeavor. Doing that was waking me up. Little bits of awakening was arising in me through spending time in the mode of creation. I think that's a wonderful gift that artists and we sort of gather up a bit of this consciousness in the mode of creation. So I was deeply struggling, and this doctor, I actually prayed I prayed to God for help, and miraculously this doctor showed up in my life. And so
may I just ask, actually,
yeah.
so you prayed to God, you're 17 years old, and 1917, sorry, and did you have a belief in God, or what was God to you at that time?
I didn't even believe in God.
Okay.
I thought if God was for religious people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought if it's real, I don't have any knowledge or access to that.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I didn't have any spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs. I was sort of just on my own, stuck in my own beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
which was a kind of a deadly cocktail for me to navigate my life.
Yep. I totally resonate with that at that age. Yes, agreed.
But I used I used deadly in the context that there was a part of me that really needed to die. And when I became suicidal and I was racing at that brick wall that I was going to smash myself into, what needed to die was my ego.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that in that moment. I just knew that I had to get out.
That's beautifully said, and I think that's hugely important for people in great struggle. It's I've seen it in myself so many times. It's the ego, and then, do it like just the complete letting go, and complete letting go, whether it be driving in towards a brick wall, and then just allowing oneself to have all of your mind racing and all that towards yourself, but and getting the ego, allowing it to die in those moments. So please, you knock on the door of Dr. Strange, as I'm calling him, and yes, carry on.
Yeah, he offered in that moment. It took a tremendous amount of courage and willingness to surrender in that moment. But with the courage and surrender, it was sort of the catalyst that opened the door for me to receive help. Now, what was unique about the help that he was offering was that he was inspiring me to help myself, because I think he was well along his path. He knew that he couldn't help or fix me. And that was sort of an inside job that I had to do on my own. And so he provided tools and offered a friendship that lasted, 8 years intensely. And we continued to be friends after that. But it was a very intensive 8 years with the doctor. And he put me through a lot of different things, took me to see healers, and he did acupuncture on me and worked with me psychology, and he just put me through the ringer, and he put me in front of a lot of people that helped me on my path.
Wow. That's beautiful. And I don't know that that's a common thing, that someone just takes you under their beautiful angelic wing, and it does happen. It does happen. And I'm loving hearing this. And the whole point of this podcast is the 100th monkey effect, sort of, right? So that we speak this, and more people who hear it can be receptive to it, and have that show up in their lives. So thank you for sharing that. That's so beautiful. And I love that that the mentors like that exist, earth angels. So so he gave you the tools, he took you around, and where does the story go from there? How do we get to today?
He and I started leading study groups, and we started, he and I wrote a workshop together, and we were teaching that. So, and I think when I look back with this perspective, I was a missing component of himself. He had a very strong intellect and was very well read, but he lacked the ability to transcend his mind.
Right.
And through my experience as an artist, I was in the beginning stages of transcending my mind, transcending the limited self that houses me. And so I think I was a missing component of himself, and he could see himself through me. He could see his potential through me, and I could see my potential through him. And we sort of needed each other.
Yes. And it was like this, it feels like a completion of each other in a sense, but really you're each becoming whole through each other, if I may say. So it's like this beautiful, I see, I'm an artist as well. So I see, I just see an infinity symbol. So this beautiful loop, that's, right. I love it. That's so beautiful. Okay. So you started doing workshops. What was, for example, that first workshop that you wrote together, and who was it for?
It was for the general public, and it was a workshop about awakening. Basically, those are my words, not his. The workshop was called "A Journey to the Heart's Riches," and he was well versed in the New Thought movement, which involves a great deal of interesting thinkers from the late 1900s. And there was a lot of talk about manifestation and So he turned me on to some of the early works of Thomas Troward and James Allen and Wallace D. Wattles. So I read a lot of material from that period, from the New Thought movement, about manifesting and creating your reality, which sort of came alive, really came alive when the movie The Secret came out, and like people were really starting to look at that. But the Secret was missing a very important component, in the sense of we use our ability to manifest to bring forward divine will, not desire.
Yeah.
And so it was sort of, that movie sort of preyed on people's desires, which leads us deeper into the mind.
Yeah, beautifully said. I love that. I love that. So what's the secret behind the secret then? Let's extrapolate a little bit further. It's divine will, as you say. So what does that look like for someone watching and hearing that for the first time and going, okay, yeah, the affirmations aren't working, the sticky notes on my, it's not working. So yeah, let's just dive into that a little bit deeper with specifically with divine will and law of attraction. Because law of attraction is always working. It's always working by default, whether we know it or not. So we're attracting exactly what we're putting out. Let's talk about divine will, please, Ned.
Sure. And I've queried that subject in myself. What is divine will? Does God want? And I don't, from my perspective, I don't see that we have a wanting God. And, I don't see our Lord is a punishing God that controls. So want and control doesn't seem to line up with divine will. So I ask myself, what is divine will? And I think it's the purpose that lies in my soul, the purpose that lies deep in my heart of why and what I've come here to do is what divine will is for me. So divine will is something different for everyone. And I think there's collective ideas that we can embrace to move forward in this world and to raise consciousness, which is good for all of us. But I think we all have our own divine will that leads inside of us. And to get there, we absolutely have to transcend the mind.
Yes.
We have to transcend the body, but not eliminate it. We use the body and the mind as tools, and we put that in its rightful place by doing so. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I heard something beautiful the other day, and I wish I can remember who said it, but it was someone describing each of us, like when we're in our divine, when we're in alignment with what we're meant to do, it's really stepping out of the box of fitting into a box. Actually, it's stepping out of that, becoming the artist that we are, because we're all born artists. People say, oh, I'm not an artist, I can't draw. It's not about that. We're all born as creators, right? So when we're all, and this has got to do with the collective consciousness, when we're all expressing our own piece of the puzzle, then as a collective, we all fit together as puzzle pieces and we all rise, right? So, but it's really stepping outside of like the sort of, and I don't mean to say 9 to 5 is bad, I don't mean it in that sense, but are we working to live or living to work? The whole idea, right? So I love what you just said, and that really resonated with what I heard the other day. And I think yes, divine will is something that we need to what's the word? We need to find out for ourselves. It's such a unique thing. And then once we have it for ourselves, then we sort of collectively raise. So yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Now, so moving along, so how old are you? You're like 17, 18 when you meet the doctor, you do these workshops, you do this together. And then how do you progress from there?
From there, I met the jourdᴜʀᴜ monks, and it was an old friend of mine that lived down the road, he joined them out in BC when the main center was out there. And when he came back to town one day, someone had told him that I was spiritual, and he's like, "No way, Ned Burwell's not spiritual. I got to see this for myself." So he come wandering in my store, and we had such a beautiful conversation. And so he was meeting me as a new person and embracing me as for who I was in that moment, not the culmination of my past.
Right.
And so he sort of turned me on to them, and I was having these inward experiences that, I was trying to make sense of through tattooing. And so the ʔᴜʟʟs brought some practical information and a boatload of experience of moving deeper into that place that I refer to as the silence within.
Mhm.
So the ʔᴜʟʟ monks were a very necessary part of my path, and not that everybody needs to go down that path. And sorry, you're going to say something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, so then you become a monk yourself, not for a very long time, but what did that look like?
It was just a ton of meditation. It involved going away for longer retreats. I was already amping up my retreat time. I was spending quite a bit of time going to 1 week, 2 week retreats, sometimes just 3 days, and then my regular daily practice of meditation. So there was a constant turning inward and setting down. And it sounds really nice and lovely, but in truth, it was very difficult. It brought forward a lot of my deepest struggles, and it was not just a time of light and beauty. There was lots of light and beauty surrounding that period of my life, but there was an equal amount of darkness that I was trying to work through. And when you stop and not do, and there's nothing outside of you distracting you, and problems arise, it's all you. And I realized that a good portion of the problems I was having in life were as a result of myself. And it was the result of me holding on to the past and clinging to the future, and never really moving forward in this moment.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's like that's the crux of like everything. I had this conversation in my mind this morning. I'm struggling with something, as I'm getting ready, and I've got the awareness of like, yeah, but you're over there. You're over there. And you're swimming in the past, and you're looking to a predictable future based on that past. And come back. And I just kept saying to myself, come back right here, right now. Just keep getting ready. Just, and so it's such, and I know, like, as I was thinking about that, like the struggle is really, it's mental. It's really like being here or there, or being there or there, but not right here. Not right here. So it's meditation is actually, can you describe what meditation is for you? It's please describe what meditation means for you, how it's changed over the years, if it has, and what's your sort of daily practice like, and why you do it still. I think
meditation, it started out with me as a formal practice. I was practicing at certain times, and in the early stages, I needed a certain amount of requirements to sit and meditate. And that's something the ʔᴜʟʟs sort of moved us away from. My teacher used to say, go meditate in an airport where it's loud, and lots of people around. So meditation starts out as a practice, and in that practice, we're generally just trying to learn how to just be, to settle down, to not work on the commentaries of thoughts that are dropping into our mind,
Mm-hmm.
and creating space for us to allow ourselves to drop deeper into the silence within. It's ever present. It doesn't go away. It doesn't arise only in meditation. And so as we have more and more experiences of touching the stillness, we begin to integrate those experiences into our lives. And eventually, it's important to integrate that meditation experience into your open-eyed time.
Yes.
So moving forward in your daily life, well, in that space. And that was something that, as I progressed with the Ashaya monks, that was the instruction, is to move forward with every breath, with one finger on the silence and one finger on the presence of this moment. And so that's sort of my daily practice, where my life itself is a meditation.
Yes.
My work is a meditation.
Yes.
It reduces the need for the made up self to insert so much. This made up self of me is just a made up reality. And while embracing a meditative life, we decrease the amount of us in the egoic sense, and we decrease the amount of us in the egoic state, and we increase the greater amount of us in the silence, which allows and embraces everything and everyone.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love that. And isn't that where the quote unquote magic exists? Isn't that where, like, where synchronicity after synchronicity, or as people say, coincidences, which is what but a cooperative incident, same thing, is in that space of stillness. Isn't that the birthplace of all this, the beauty that we start to experience when you're able to go into that, and really see life as a walking, living, breathing meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what I'm finding as well. There were times where, going through my own practice and, questioning it, and, just coming to, like, but my life is a meditation, my expression is a meditation, and the way that I be, the way that I love, be it others on the street or where I was working or whatever, love, I think when you tune into your heart, that it really does, you really do express in a different way, and it becomes, for me, that love meditation is, love and meditation are of equal expression, if I can say. Yeah.
A constant leaning inward and being here. Like, I don't think we need to negate what's around us.
Mm-hmm.
Negate this physicality.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we are.
I agree. No, I agree with you 100%. It's as you were saying, like, the body and the mind are important tools, right? And the body is the way that we feel emotions, and we've been taught forever that emotion, especially, well, the negative emotions, we've got to put that aside, be a man, that sort of thing, and don't be so angry. But I am angry, and we need to be able to feel those things through the body, literally through the body, in order to transcend that. So yeah, I agree with you, that we do really need to not think of the physicality as, like, as external. It's all connected. It's all one. But I wanted to go to, there's a beautiful, actually, I wanted to talk about your books, and the first one that you wrote, Be Love, just this beautiful book here. I was listening to one of your conversations with Lisa, there's something really beautiful that you said, and so we're gonna dive into love and what that means. And you said, by embracing love, we learn more about ourselves, and by sharing love, we learn more about each other, which is something so beautiful. And that you wrote, or actually, as you say, you channeled. This is one of your quotes, and even, you know, both of the books that you've written, you say that they've come through you. So let's talk about. I want to start with love, self-love, what that means, and then I want to jump into something else. But how would you describe that quote that you just that I've just shared about of yours?
Well, love to me, the longer we look at love, the bigger it gets. And my understanding is sort of my goal. One of my goals and purposes in this life is to understand love more.
Yes.
So I constantly, and I think I was saying this when I met you the other day, I constantly ask myself, what is love? And I don't assume that my past answers are right or the whole picture. And I think the more time we spend in contemplation of what is love, how do I be love? How do I express that? Where does it come from? What is the nature of it? All these sort of questions lead us deeper and deeper into what love is. So, and I don't love and God are a package deal. So I've often said that love is to God as the weave is to cloth. So the weave holds it all together, but it doesn't make up the sum total of what it is, but it holds it all together. And love is a divine intelligence that in a force that moves to and through us. We don't possess it, but we as divine beings have this ability to move deeper parts of ourselves into this world. So love is us in our purest form. In our purest form, we are love. And the love is the movement. So it's the feminine aspect of the divine moving into this physical manifestation. And it's a powerful tool that has its own intelligence. We don't have to control or offer much guidance or any guidance to love. It knows where to go and just what to do.
Oh, wow. That was beautifully, beautifully sung. Thank you so much. I love that. And actually, that's a beautiful segue into the next question. It's like you just read my mind. And that's about the divine feminine and masculine within each of us, and then as a collective. So, and in our conversation the other day, we touched upon the divine masculine. So actually, can you let's dive into there, and let's talk about divine masculinity and femininity within oneself first, and then expand outwards to the collective. So please, if you can, go into that.
I think the point of entry is to understand gender first. And define, maybe just if we could preface this with a bit of talk about gender. We come into this world gender assigned in our physical nature, but it doesn't make up who and what we are. So gender is just a physical expression where, you know, the attributes of the divine feminine and divine masculine are not gender assigned.
Right.
And I think it's important that people realize that, because when we talk about masculine and feminine, we assign it to a gender.
Yes.
And the masculine and feminine are not so much a gender, but an energy and a potential that we express through. And I think that's males have a difficulty because we've assigned femininity with females, the female
Yes.
gender, that I had difficulty. I'll just talk about myself. I had
Hmm.
difficulty expressing love, expressing, these squishy creative things inside of me. Anything that was going into touchy-feely was just off bounds for a male. And this is where, we've made such a critical error, that we haven't embraced these polarities. So the divine masculine is a polarity, the divine feminine is a polarity, and we
Hmm.
need both of those polarities.
Hmm.
Much like a flower needs its roots, it needs a stem, it needs the buds to fully express itself. And you remove any one of those components, and it'll fail to express its true beauty.
Right.
So us, like the flower that grows and blossoms into this world, we need both of those polarities to really move forward in the most harmonious way.
Yes, beautifully said. Beautifully said. So let's go talk about the genders then. Let's talk about man and woman, and a woman who's and each of the genders out of balance, out of harmony. So what does a man look like? I mean, I think you just described it, but let's go a little bit deeper. What does a man look like when he's not in balance with his femininity, with not his, the masculine and the feminine within? What does that look like?
Well, as a male,
Hmm.
when I was out of balance with my femininity,
Hmm.
the divine feminine in me,
Hmm.
I was completely on in the masculine side, and I would tend to be dominant and forceful.
Hmm. Hmm.
Instead of assertive, I was aggressive.
Hmm.
And what I was lacking was the ability to, and I was goal oriented. If there was a task in front of me, a man will just, like me and my male energy, I would just hammer that task hard
Yeah.
and fast. Just
Yeah.
the goal is to get it done. Just get it done. And it's funny because I'll do construction with friends, and if we're building something, and I watch some males, like, it's get it done. It's about getting it done. But what can happen in that energy is we fail to back up and see the bigger picture, so
Uh-huh.
that the feminine aspect of ourself has a much broader sight. It sees the bigger picture.
Yes.
And in learning how to be gentle in our approach, not forceful, uh,
Hmm.
and to be more creative,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
to, the part of me that was masculine, it was always in competition. How fast can I do this? Not always competition with the world and others, but more so the competition with myself. How
Right,
fast
right,
can I
right,
do this? And how, if I'm going to start a business, how fast can I grow it? How
right,
fast can I get to where my mind wants to be? Where
right.
the feminine in balance is just creative and abundant.
Hmm. Yeah.
And there's a list of different qualities that, if we just lean into these different qualities, like being creative versus narrowed vision, and
Hmm.
stuck in our own ideas,
Yeah.
open, and
Yeah.
to allow our intuition to arise.
Yeah.
That's that's where the creativity comes from. It just comes from a deeper place within. So
Yeah.
learning to back up, pause,
Yeah.
be patient, be gentle.
Yeah.
And sometimes brute force and sheer determination, a strong back isn't always the way to move forward in this world.
Yeah.
So what if we embrace a more feminine um, approach to life in general, there's room for everything. There's room for everyone. There's there it's not, life isn't a race, but a beautiful journey that we walk from one moment to the next. And
Yes. Yeah, beautifully said. You know, when you say that, I think of the tortoise and the hare. You know, the old the nursery rhyme, not the nursery rhyme, the children's fairy tale, however you wish to call it, and how, you know, the hare is always circling the tortoise, and you know, like, he's gonna win, he's gonna win, he's gonna win, he's gonna get to the finish line, and he's cheating and he's doing all these things, and the tortoise is just like, you know, he's taking his time, and he's, you know, talking to the other animals, whatever, and he gets there at the end and he wins, but he never cared about that. It was about the journey. um it's for us, like for Ben and I, just tacking on to what you were saying before, like, I'll stop us, you know, or you know, interrupt him, in not like, okay, we need to stop and dance now. It's not like that, but I'll be like, hey, how about in half an hour? What does it look like? You know, if we can just stop and have a boogie, you know, or like, or you know, whenever you're done doing that, why don't, here's like markers and pencil crayons, and there's the meditation book. Why don't you color for a little bit, you know? And I mean, he hadn't drawn before we got together. He hadn't drawn since he was a kid, or, you know, and that's one of the things when we first moved into our place, was just to roll out this massive sheet of paper, and we just sat on the ground and we would draw. We don't do that as much anymore, but so, and I think if what I'm hearing correct in you, that's the divine feminine, and I don't mean that because of me being the woman, but like, we're both tuning into the feminine within. And so it's those sort of intangible things that are off the to-do list that really bring things into balance, that make the to-do list flow much in a much better way, right? If I'm hearing you correctly, and from my own experience.
Yeah, and you know, there's so much. Life can't fit into the narrowness of our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to squeeze life into the narrow mind of our perspective and our desire. And when we try to force life to conform to the narrowness of our mind, we sort of miss it. We miss actually what's happening. We miss the opportunity of the moment, and we miss the opportunity, all the grace that's moving into our lives. We were talking earlier about miracles, seeing miracles happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, many years ago, I think I was maybe 20 years old, I wrote a quote, and it goes, in between all our greatest moments, the miracles are still happening. And in that moment, I was just starting to recognize more miracles. But the reality is that life itself is a miracle.
Yes.
We're constantly surrounded in one giant miracle. And it's only the mind that makes up this reality that this is good, this is bad. And it pulls us away from truly accessing a divine life, and how to express ourselves through this inward place.
Mm-hmm.
So that perspective of the divine feminine moving out of us into this world is us moving the light of creation that gathers in us.
Yeah.
So my job as an artist is I sit in darkness all the time, and in the darkness of me, the pure HP defines darkness as pure spirit,
Mm-hmm.
not evil or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So in the darkness of the silence in me is where the light gathers.
Mm-hmm.
And my job is to rest in that darkness. And the darkness represents the unknowing
Mm-hmm.
in us, the surrender. And it's an essential component to expressing our creativity is to surrender constantly. Don't assume that we know how something's going to go.
Yes.
We rest in that darkness and the unknowing, and be curious about the light that's gathering in that space.
Yeah.
I know that's sort of abstract, but there's more to unpack in you by learning just to rest in that dark silent space in you.
Yes.
And out of that darkness, like I say, the light gathers. It's
Yes.
not void of light, but it's rather where the light gathers, and it'll start to rise up in us.
Yes.
And that's the expression or the move of the divine moving into this world, and that's the feminine aspect of the divine.
Yes.
Which the divine is not two parts. It's only one thing, but there's different aspects of the one.
Yes.
And so that all this physical manifestation is rooted in the divine, in the feminine way, because creation is the movement of light within us. Everything that surrounds you is, all these made objects were the creation of a person.
Yes.
Every single thing that surrounds you in your home is a creation.
Yes.
It's the movement of the divine into this world. And everything in nature is the movement of the divine.
Yes.
So learning how to move the divine in you extracts our purpose in life. It takes us back to earlier, it expresses divine will, the divine will for us. So by living in the mind and constantly living in our desires of what we want and how we're going to control life, we miss the opportunity to express divine will.
Yeah.
We miss the opportunity to live our path in the most purposeful way.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's around the corner. I just know that in this moment, here right now, I'm with you.
Yes.
And that's all that's necessary. And in 20 minutes, I may be somewhere else. And everything I need will be waiting for me in that moment. And I don't have to live in a future moment. I just need to show up in this moment here now and express what's rising up in me.
Goodly God. Thank you. Thank you. I feel the same way, and I say this over and over again, when I'm sat across somebody and they're having pangs of worriness and this and that, it's like, here we are right here now. I've often had people come in when I was working at the store saying, I'm really depressed. They would just come out and say it, and I would say, but and here you are smiling. And so beautiful. And we're having this conversation. Here we are right here and now. And then, we'll go in for a big hug and, they'll leave thinking, wow, I feel so much better than when I came in. And I say to them, like, you right here, right now, you're the most important person in my life. You're the only thing going on. This is it. This is it, and what a shift in perspective that is and that becomes, right? I love that you've just for me as well reiterated that, like, this is it. This is life right here, right now, talking to Ned Burwell, like, on this beautiful technology that often, gets knocked too much. Technology is bad, or, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well. Or we're just either used by it or using it for good purpose. And that's what I see this as, all this good purpose. Thank you for this moment in time. Thank you. Time. So actually, I want to jump into, before we even talk about technology, goals and the whole idea of goal setting. I put together an Instagram post a while back about hustle and grind, and I put those two words there, hustle and grind. I crossed them out and said, first tune in and get aligned. Right. And then there's no need for that pushing and forcing and controlling of things to get to the thing that we want to. Right. So can you just talk about goal setting and the idea of it? And I in my surmise, you've done that, but let's spell that out a little bit more, so that let's spell that out a little bit more.
I think it's important to ask ourselves, where does this goal come from?
Mm-hmm.
Is because I've had so many pursuits in my life that were pursuits of my desires, and a goal based in desire, a want. You know, it's great. We can achieve them, and I've
Right.
achieved lots myself. But what's the most satisfying is to move into heart-centered purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And if you move into a heart-centered purpose, place of purpose, then we're already in the movement toward the goal. It's whatever the goal is, we're already moving toward it without any conscious effort of the mind.
Yeah.
The mind doesn't create the manifestation. Moving into that interior silence and looking toward the direction that it's pointing us to is what moves us into the deepest and most gratifying manifestations we could ever do. You know, my mind will come up. It'll enter the equation where I can just have this intuition. Oh, I need to write my next book, or I need to do this next painting.
Yeah.
And it may be arising. And if I ask myself, is this out of a desire or is this purposeful? And you know, if I'm in lack of something, it's probably just a desire to need something that I'm lacking, which is not true, because
Right.
we don't lack anything.
Right.
So, but once the goal is established, I've always seen goals as the minimum I can achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the mind makes up this idea that, okay, I'm gonna do something, and this is the end goal is to, say, raising money. Whenever I do a charity event, I'll always set a goal. I'll
Right.
just ask myself, how much money does this is practical that we're going to bring in without killing ourselves in the process of trying to raise money? And so I'll always come up with a number, but that's always the minimum that I think will achieve.
Ah, right. Okay. Okay. Now, actually, I want to jump to the stuff, the works that you're doing right now. Like you work with youth, you do a lot of mental health work. You're speaking. You've got 2 books. So actually, let's talk about the youth that you work with,
Mhm.
please.
Yeah, I've actually got 6 books.
We've got
In
6. My goodness.
Mhm.
All right.
That's okay. Yeah, I do a lot of public speaking, and last week I was at the CMHA speaking in a community program they're offering. They asked me to be a guest speaker.
CMHA
Um,
being.
Canadian Mental Health Association.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And next week, or in January, I was invited to come speak with Welkin, the OECYC, the Youth Mental Health Organization in Woodstock.
Okay.
So these are 2 charities that I've donated money to in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've given talks at the police college on mindfulness in a senior officers course. I've given lots of talks at wellness centers and throughout not just Ontario, but across the country.
Brilliant.
I've recently I was called in to speak with some teachers on one of their professional learning days,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sort of the intermission component of wellness.
And I love that. I didn't know that you were doing. I'm so pleased to know that you were doing all that stuff. And how do you, so when you go into like the you know, when you're talking in front of the police or the teachers or whatever, how are you received? And what are the conversations like post workshop or post talk, and actually with the youth as well? How I imagine that you're received really well, but just what are some of the conversations that come about, like that sort of have stuck in your mind, that this is for lack of a better way of saying it, the right thing, and let's keep on doing this.
It's interesting. Every organization is a little different. The hardest talk I ever gave was for the police in the police college. They sort of was. I felt a little bit of a lot of male dominating energy in the room, and they're sort of looking at it like, what's this about meditation and mindfulness? This seems a little airy-fairy for me.
Right.
The person that invites me to any of these talks is always thrilled to receive me, but then it's my job to show the rest of the room why I'm there.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing my job properly when I'm public speaking, I'm not so much just conducting my agenda of what I want to speak about, but I'm rather connecting with the room. So if it's just a 5 to 15 minute talk, it may just be, I have 3 points to share. If I engage in a longer conversation, it's my job to connect with the surrounding room and people, and learn to listen to what is it that this talk needs to hear.
Right. Really coming into resonance with where the collective of the room is at, and speaking from there.
I used to give longer talks. I typically keep them a little bit shorter now. I find that if you can boil down your message into 5 to 15 minutes, it's much better than dragging it out over an hour.
Right. Okay. As your talks with Lisa on your YouTube channel, I noticed that you guys keep those within about 15 minutes, which is brilliant. You get the point across, and there we are. Fantastic. I think I would like to wrap up at this point, and I would love for you to share how people can find you, your books, and all the things that you're up to, all the events that you're up to, fundraising and all that sort of stuff. Please, how can people find you, Ned?
Yeah, if you Google Ned Burwell, you'll find a plethora of information about me. You can contact me through umatter, letter U, matter.ca.
Thank you.
And find me on there. That's a free mental health and spiritual health organization that I offer to the community for the purpose of raising consciousness. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Endless Boundaries Tattoo.
All right, brilliant. And I just wanted to show, I've got Awakened the Reality of What Is. This is your latest book, yes?
No, I've done 2 since then.
Oh my gosh. This is 2021. So 2 since then. And you've got 6 in total. And oh my goodness. I mean, I have yet to properly go through both of them, but there's it's full. They're full of gold nuggets, as are you, dear Ned. So what a pleasure it's been to chat with you this morning. And goodness, just carry on shining. Thank you. Thank you for you and your service to humanity. It's really, really, really appreciated.
I was about to address you as well. Thank you for doing this podcast and bringing this light into the world.
Thank you.
We come to know each other. When we come to know each other, we know ourselves more. And so you're helping bring an understanding of who and what we are just by connecting with people. And in turn, that raises consciousness. And I see that as an ongoing purpose in my life, is to constantly raise consciousness. But it starts with self. And then it moves into connecting with others, and from there it's endless. There's an expansion this world needs and is working through. We don't have to force it through anything. We just have to be conscious of ourselves, connect with ourselves first, then connect with others, and just express. And we raise consciousness in that endeavor.
I love that. Thank you. And what a joy to be part of this great expansion with you, with so many others that have the same vision. So God bless you. Thank you, and wishing you such a wonderful day.